Okay, so let's see if this thing actually works. I don't know why it's not working. Where is this? Okay, let's. Okay, this is obviously not a very good question. Close your eyes and raise your hand. Now that way you'll not know if anybody is seeing you or not. So basically, generally my question is, I was going to just make this more anonymous, but this one is not possible in this case. But I'm wondering whether people are generally keeping up, I mean, people who are keeping up are keeping up. People who are not keeping up probably don't. But so let me just say the following thing, okay? So, how many for A? don't be ashamed. I'm sure there are other people like you, okay? If there are, there's nobody in A, right? Okay. How many for B? Wow. Okay. How many for C? Okay. How many for D? Okay. Good, at least somebody. Okay. So that's that, and so the next one is how is the project progress? Completed 4 tasks. Okay. Please don't hate them. Okay. They only did it because I asked them. Completed only 3 tasks. Okay. Completed only 2 tasks. Okay. Completed only 1 task. What is project? So people who haven't actually who haven't completed even 1 task. Okay. You guys, I mean, if you are actually having trouble, it's one thing. If you haven't started thinking it's going to be easy, then it's probably going to be difficult. You're going to be a difficult situation. Yes.
Ask a question on the project.
Yeah.
So when the AutoGrader runs, they have a number of test cases for each question, and there's like pass fails. And so, for example, for my uniform cost search, I passed 7 out of the 8 tests, but then I get a 0 out of 3 on the AutoGrader. Will you be giving partial credit on the?
Yes, I guess we'll give you partial credit, of course. But the more useful thing is why is the other cases failing? You should be able to figure that out. Some cases, sometimes people may have implemented things in less than optimal fashion, and so is this like because there's a bigger test case they're checking?
No, it checks for the complete, like if your algorithm passes in all the possible boundary cases or not.
Okay.
So if it is not a correct implementation, some of the
boundary cases will fail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the thing.
Okay. So the answer is that if it's not passing some of the test cases, then there is something wrong with the code. And the first 4 things you want to make sure that there is nothing wrong, because they are very simple search strategies. Okay. There are people who completed all 4, they said, right? So they were able to complete, when they said completed, that means the AutoGrader also, correctly said everything is fine. So there is existence proof. There is nothing wrong with the AutoGrader. Okay, so that's good to know. Okay, the other thing, okay, so this is actually, I need serious numbers, and I probably going to count this. So what I'm thinking is, although I said, exam next week, which is still probably a possible thing, but there's a project, there's exam, there's homework, and I was only considering exam next week because I won't be here, and that would be a good way of using the free time. But I actually want to make up for the time I'm losing also. So what I'm considering is the following. I reserved a room in BYAC from BYAC 150 from 2 to 4:30 p.m. on Monday, because that's the last day I will be here. Tuesday I'll be here, but I can't actually teach. And then from Tuesday evening until next week I will be here. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is, if I can have a makeup class, which will of course be recorded, so that the video will be available in case you are not actually able to be there. And I can't just give you videos for it, partly because I think I'm going to do Markov decision processes, very, very cool stuff. And I don't actually have undergraduate level teaching on that, so I'm going to do that next week. Okay, so, but if you are missing it, then you will have to just, watch the videos. Okay, so I was just going to ask the following question. If I am going to go 2 to 4:30 p.m. And it will be in BYAC 150 on Monday. Okay, so you should know what your schedule is. So, how many people can attend all of it? Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 or something. Okay. Okay. How many can attend the first part only? That means, if you could attend all of it, then obviously you also can attend the first one. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 28 plus 5. Okay. How many can only attend the second part? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Oh, okay. So I'm assuming that the people who raised their hands for the second part are the ones who actually did not raise for any other. Right? I mean, okay. Okay. And then they cannot, and of course, how many of you cannot attend any other parts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Okay. I'm going to send you an email on this. I just don't want to make a decision right now, but I'll do that. I'll send you an email on this. But you have a heads up about the possibility that you might do this. Okay. Let me just write down what I did. Okay, and then while I have that, yes.
If you do it, will you be able to post the video of it like before the exam?
No, it won't be in the exam. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I mean, I'm cruel, but not that cruel. It's like, I'll get. You guys, if you have lawyers, you can sue me. But probably you don't. Anyway, so real question. Think about this. I'm just going to write down my numbers. The minimal conditions for the optimality of A star search are, which is, the ABC. So. Okay. How many think A is the answer? Heuristic must be consistent. Minimal conditions. Okay, nobody thinks so. Heuristic must be admissible. Okay, a lot of people think so. Heuristic must be admissible and consistent. Okay. So if you are consistent, you are admissible. Okay. Consistency is a stronger condition than admissibility. Okay. There is no such thing as consistent and admissible because consistency implies admissibility. What consistency essentially says is that your heuristic value for a node is basically your estimate of how far you think you are from the goal. Okay, now instead of going from here directly to the goal according to your estimate, suppose you were to go to one of the neighbors. So you take the actual cost to go to the neighbors and take their h value. So you got a triangle. By triangle law of inequality, these two together cannot be smaller than direct. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if I have a good estimate of, if I think that going from Tempe to Los Angeles is only, let's say, 540 miles. Okay, that's my heuristic currently. No, I think the heuristic is 300 miles, let's say. I think 300 is the amount of distance from Tempe to Los Angeles. But then I believe in my own mind that the distance from Tucson to Los Angeles is 100 miles, because that's my heuristic says so. Okay, and then I know that the distance from here to Tucson is 90 miles. Then it makes no sense for me to believe that I am 300 miles away from Los Angeles. It's not consistent to have those beliefs. Do you see what I'm saying? Heuristic is your belief about how far the distance is to the goal. Okay, and so if you ensure consistency, then it turns out by induction you can prove that consistency implies admissibility. So the reality is the minimal conditions required for optimality of A star, just admissibility. You can be admissible without being consistent, but you can't be consistent without being admissible. Okay. Okay. With respect to this picture, where the red heuristic here is the perfect heuristic. Okay. Which of the following statements is true? H1, H2, H3, H4. So this is H1, this is H2, this is H3, this is H4. H1, H2, H3, H4 are all admissible. B, H1, H2, H5 are admissible. C, H1, H2, H3, H star are admissible. Okay? This would have been so much nicer if we had clicks. I say you click and then you just, anyway. But raise your hands if you think A is the answer. A. How many people think A is the answer? How many people think B is the answer? How many people think C is the answer? I don't have anything to teach. Okay. Okay. With respect to the figure below, again the same figure, which of the following statements is true? The blue, which happens to be the max of the H2 heuristic and H3 heuristic. Max basically means envelope of the two curves. Okay? So the blue heuristic is both admissible and more informed than H2 or H3. Okay, that's one statement. The other is H2 plus H3 will be both admissible and more informed than all the heuristics shown. C is H3 will expand fewer nodes than H2 in getting the optimal path. Okay, this is a trickier question, right? So, how many people think A is the answer? There's only one true. Okay, some number of you. B. Nobody thinks B is the answer. What's wrong with B? Why can't I do H2 plus H3? So, one of the holy grails of search literature is getting heuristics that can be added and they still will be admissible. If you can, imagine, you have two heuristics, they're both okay, but you add them up, you get a bigger heuristic. And so obviously it will be more informed. If it can also be admissible, then you're in good business. Most of the time, some of heuristics are not admissible, most of the time. Unless you very carefully design the problem, most of the time the sum of admissible heuristics is not admissible. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sum of admissible heuristics are not admissible. Is multiplication of the admissible heuristics admissible? Of course not. How about division? What? Division, how many people think division of two heuristics to admissible heuristics would be admissible? 0 is an admissible heuristic. H1 by 0 is infinity. Division doesn't, you don't think that heuristics are somehow like integers, right? They can be 10 power minus 7 in some place. And so they'll blow the heck out of the other heuristic. H1 by H3 will be much, much higher. So it can be much higher than H star. So in general, division also doesn't work. Subtraction. Subtraction works as long as it's not negative. So if you say max of H1 minus H2 and 0, that would work. Okay? But sum doesn't work. But it would be so nice if sum works. So we'll keep coming back to it. Lots and lots of times, heck with it, we'll still use the sum heuristic anyway, even though it's not admissible. Because sometimes you don't care about optimality, you just want to get done and go home fast. And so H1 plus H3 will get you to go home fast. Okay, H3 will expand fewer nodes than H2 in getting the optimal path. C, how many people think C is the correct answer? Nobody thinks C is the correct answer. So the reason you should not be thinking C is the correct answer is because H3 and H2, they're basically, neither of them is more informed than the other because they're crossing each other. Okay?
So, just one question, like, but in the blue one, I only had one doubt, like, in the end, it actually passes the H star value, right?
Blue one passes H star value?
At the
very
at the
Oh!
So,
By the way, there is like an elephant in the room. Okay, what is the elephant in the room? What's wrong with H star that I showed there? Is there a goal in this search? Is there a goal in this search? No. Right? If there is a goal, H star should have touched 0. Right? Right. Whoever that guy is, that is right, that this part it does cross. So in fact, max is not right. Except that could not have been max either. It's just Ram's bad handwriting. The max, the actual formula, if H1 and H3 are both less than H star, max of them cannot be greater than H star. Okay? But keep in mind that this is a bad picture, even though you are ready to fall for it, because it's not hitting the 0 anyway. If there is no 0, that means there is no goal nodes. If there are no goal nodes, everybody is admissible. I mean, because everybody is optimal. If there is no path to be found, then how do you know that I was going to find a bad path? Right? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you said even though summation of two heuristics isn't invisible, but we sometimes choose in the future just to be done, even if it's not optimal. How come we will never use multiplication? Because that'll get us.
You can do it too.
Oh,
You can do it. The best is to use infinity. I told you that. Like just make h equal to infinity and you're done. You don't have to expand a single node. That was like the full pessimism. There is no hope of going to a goal. That's it. Right? You're done right away. Okay? But it's not admissible. So one of the interesting points basically actually, it's funny, in fact, yesterday I was listening to Dan Lem show. How many of you know Dan Lem? There's like an NPR show about Dan Lem. There's a cognitive neuroscientist who was talking to her and he wrote this book called The Organized Mind. And then suddenly he was telling Dan Lem about this particular word, which Google insists is not a word, but AI people agree that it's a word. Satisficing. Okay, what human beings do typically is not find the optimal solutions, but find satisficing solutions. Satisficing solution is warm and fuzzy, non-definable notion. Okay, where if you are unhappy and you are finding optimal solution, I look at you and say you are not happy because you are not doing satisficing solution. Okay, but in general the point is that human organizations don't do optimal solutions. If this was a surprise to you, I don't know what I can say. Okay, but it turns out that there is only one person in computer science who got a Nobel Prize. Pozos don't give Nobel Prizes to computer science people. Okay, it's not even because computer science people slept with Albert Nobel's wife. You know why I say this, right? Because there is no Nobel Prize for math. Because apparently some mathematician's wife slept with Albert Nobel. Anyway, so he said no more math Nobel Prizes. Okay, but computer science people didn't do that kind of a thing. And yet they don't get Nobel Prizes. But there's one guy who we think is a computer scientist. He was in a computer science department. He got a Nobel Prize. That is Herbert Simon, who we talked about earlier, who did Sciences of the Artificial, who talked about this funny ant, Simon's ant, and he also talked about, he basically was one of the guys who worked with the main AI conference, the first AI meeting and so on. And his claim to fame is that he actually studied the Milwaukee Corporation or municipality, Milwaukee being the happening place that he now found. And then he studied their decision making over a period of time. Okay, he's actually from organizational psychology, and and so he used to be originally, before computer science department existed in CMU, he used to be in GSIA, which is Graduate School of Industrial Administration, which is sort of like somewhere between business school and industrial engineering. And so his research was essentially to follow how organizations make decisions, and basically he followed this corporation or municipality, I guess corporation in Milwaukee, and showed that they mostly do satisficing decisions. They don't do optimal decisions, they don't do really bad decisions, they don't assume that H is infinity, neither do they go for H being probably admissible. They will once in a while cut corners and do H1 plus H2, and just so that they'll get a reasonable solution and get done before time is over. And it turns out that that is somewhat a reasonable way to live anyway, because it turns out that the total time to make the decision plus executing the decision, there's only one time. That if you're thinking, you're not doing. And if I give you 10 minutes to both think and do, and if you need 12 minutes to think, then you're not going to do anything. So just by definition, you will have to basically go with satisficing result. Okay, so that's the reason why people actually look at inadmissible heuristics. Oftentimes they'll say, we're just doing satisficing search. Okay, and when you do satisficing search, you can actually, so if you have two A-star search algorithms, one you wrote, one your friend wrote, and I'm trying to run them on a specific problem, and I'm going to compare them. I have to compare the time taken for search. Should I also compare who got a more optimal solution? If it's admissible, I don't need to, because if you're using heuristic which is admissible, then you will both get the exact same optimal solution. So for optimal search algorithms, all you care about is how much time they take. But if you are inadmissible heuristic, then you might be using H1 plus H2, the other guy might be using 3H1 plus 4H5 square, and somebody else might be using infinity as the heuristics. And so you can't just depend on the time taken, you have to compare time taken as well as the quality of the solution. Now of course time taken is apples, quality of the solution is oranges, so you need to do alpha times apples plus beta times oranges, which makes no sense whatsoever, but that's what you do. Okay? Right? An admissible A-star search, okay, one particular thing went up. Oh, this one, I did not do this, right? Oh, this one, yeah. Let's do this. So in the same picture, A-star with H5 and H4 will never find optimal path. This is H5 and H4. B, A-star with H5 may expand fewer nodes than A-star with H3. A-star with H5 may expand fewer nodes than A-star with H3. Okay, that's B. And C, A-star with H3 will find a cheaper, that is more optimal path than that with H1. Okay, H1 is here, H3 is here. And remember the red is the admissible solution, admissible heuristic.
We don't consider that Boolean.
Which one? Yeah, I don't consider this Boolean. I'll stand here. I told you that's just max. Okay. So, that's why I didn't give it a name. I called it max average H2. Okay. So, how many people think A is the, there's only one correct statement here. It's becoming harder now, but there's only one correct statement here. Okay. So, which one is it? So, A, how many people think A is the correct statement? H4 and H5 and H4 will never find optimal path. How many people think so? Okay, not too many, very few. Okay, A star with H5 may expand fewer nodes than A star with H3. How many people think so? Okay, and C, A star with H3, which is this, will find a cheaper, more optimal path than with H1. Okay, those of you who agreed C, that's a big problem for me. Okay, because admissibility is a binary property. Once you are admissible, we were just talking about this just now. If there are two search algorithms, both of which are using admissible heuristics, You don't care about their solution quality because it's guaranteed. If they were to terminate, they will both get optimal solutions. It's just by definition. Do you understand what I'm saying? The only difference when a heuristic is more informed than other heuristic is that it just does search faster. But when they terminate, they can't do better or worse solutions. They're all going to find the same exact solution. So, B is the only correct statement. I'm very happy that nobody thought A is the correct statement because inadmissibility does not imply inoptimality. It only implies that you are not guaranteed to be optimal. Sometimes you can luck out. And then of course you can say, I'll just use the inadmissible heuristic and after I make the solution, I'll do a little check to see if it's optimal or not. If it's optimal, I'll send it out, otherwise I won't. That would be a great solution. And those of you who just nodded your head, hit yourself. Because that's a stupid idea. Because if I give you a solution, you have to find whether it's optimal or not, you need to run an admissible search to begin with. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay? So, it turns out that H5 and H4 may sometimes find optimal solutions. But you will never be. But the only thing about optimality is unless you can guarantee it, it's of no use. Okay, yes?
I'm kind of confused though with C. I know it's not becoming, that we choose a more optimal node, there's only one node that's optimal, right? But cheaper, what about cheaper computationally though? Assuming that you already have it.
No, cheaper path. Cheaper path is cost. There are two kinds of words that we use in search algorithms, but you have to be careful. In computer science, people tend to think an algorithm is costly in the sense it takes more time to run. Okay, but in search, cost means the cost of the solution. Time means the total time spent for the search. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the cost of the solution cannot change. If you are using admissible heuristic, you are guaranteed to find the optimal solution. All optimal solutions will have the same cost.
But you can have two optimal heuristics that have different time complexities.
That's fine, but that's not what I'm asking you. In fact, that's the whole point of informed versus uninformed, right? So for example, H star is the daddy of them all, right? That's like the best admissible heuristic. It will only explore only the nodes that are on the path to the goal node. So it's like the best you can ever do.
The difference is in the time complexity come from actually finding the heuristic itself and not actually executing the search.
What?
So you said.
Yeah, but when basically search is about thinking, not about doing.
So
Search is completely about thinking, not about doing. The cost of the path is an estimate of how much time, what would be the cost of executing. Okay? Okay, an admissible A star search expands. Which of the statements is correct? I think. Yeah, which of the statements is correct? Only the nodes with F values less than or equal to F star. Both nodes with F values less than or greater than F star. Only the nodes with F values equal to F star, where F star is the F value of the optimal goal node. That means the goal node and the optimal path. Now F star equal to G star plus H star, and H star for the optimal, H star for any goal node has to be 0. If you are in the goal and you still think I have 5 more miles to go, then basically you are in the wrong business. If the goal comes and bites you, you should recognize that it's the goal. Otherwise, why are you doing search? Right? So H star for any goal node, any admissible heuristic which gives a goal node a non-zero heuristic value is not admissible. Right? Okay. So the question then is F star is G star plus H star, and basically we're just talking about just as the breadth first search, essentially slowly expands nodes of farther and farther distance from the initial node. I'm saying does A star sort of go in terms of the F contours? Okay, in particular I didn't even say actually contour, I'm only saying will A star, this one is saying A star will never expand a node whose F value is greater than F star. This one is saying it can expand nodes sometimes whose are just greater than F star, sometimes less than F star. And this one says only the nodes with value equal to F star would be expanded. Only value nodes with value equal to F star will be expanded. Okay, which of them, again one of the things are correct. So how many of you think A is correct? Okay, how many of you think B is correct? How many of you think C is correct? Again, I don't have to teach anything because that's the correct answer. A is indeed the correct answer. However, one interesting question is if you have a perfect heuristic, if your heuristic is not just admissible, but it's perfect, then which of them is correct? C. Okay? On a search tree with branching factor B and the best goal at a depth D, the number of iterations that the iterative deepening A star search does, in the worst case, that's a missing point. In the worst case, answer this question in the worst case. In the worst case, the number of iterations iterative deepening A star search will do in a search tree where the goals are at depth D and the branching factor is B. Okay? Number of iterations means, remember the way IDDFS does, like one iteration, again second iteration, again third iteration. So similarly, IDS star does basically different non-uniform boundaries. But each time you'll again look at the entire tree. So the question is how many such iterations are there? Somebody had a question. Okay. So in the worst case, that's what I'm asking. Okay. So how many think A is the answer? It's D iterations. Remember, IDDFS does D iterations, right? Okay. So none of you think A is the answer? Okay. B D iterations. B times D iterations. So actually you heard the lecture. C, B power D iterations. Okay. Those of you who are not even raising hands, they didn't hear the lecture. I was all ready to say, wow, everybody heard the lecture because only answer left is C. But I also noticed a bunch of people never raised their hands. That means they are here for the ride. It's not a good ride, believe me, if you don't keep track of what's going on. Okay, B power D iterations. So IDS star can really bite you in the worst case. Okay, why? Because each time you expand the contour, one guy comes inside the tree. Remember when you did IDDFS, when you expand the contour, you expand it by a depth level. So you expand it from D to D plus 1, a B power D plus 1 nodes are coming in. Humongous number of nodes come in anytime you open the doors. IDDFS is a kind of basically it's letting nodes immigrate very slowly, one at a time, in the worst case. And so it will wind up doing B power D iterations. If you do B power D iterations, and each iteration you look at pretty much the whole tree again and again and again,